Year we funded over 2,500 restaurants. This year we'll fund probably close to 7,000 is my guess, restaurants.
Yeah.
Right. And so we just see so many. So I'm seeing leases. I'm seeing what's selling. Like I'm seeing what people are paying general managers in their location. Part of what we do is, we're really good at giving money to restaurants and making sure that they're successful. Our restaurants don't close. Last year, less than 0.5% of our restaurants that we funded closed, right? So, which is crazy for the industry, which is amazing. But we also try to be really helpful.
All right, guys, welcome back to Close Monday. This is a podcast that's guiding restaurant entrepreneurs through growth, real estate, and strategy. And I'm your host, Kyle and Sarah. And today we have our guest, Johann Moonesinghe. I think I did that right. You can tell me if that's wrong. Did my best there. Since 2017, Johann has revolutionized restaurant financing as the founder and CEO of InKind, creating a marketplace that enhances dining experiences for over 2 million users nationwide. The users, this provides a low-cost growth capital to more than 3,000 restaurants, including acclaimed restaurant groups like Mina Group, Ethan Stowell Restaurants, and José Andrés, one of my favorite. With nearly $300 million infused into restaurants, Johann is on a mission to rethink restaurant financing, leveraging his extensive background in finance, culinary passion, and tech innovation. Johann, thank you for joining the show. All right, if you guys listen to the show every week and you haven't subscribed or you haven't left a review, I need to ask you for that favor right now. I know that a lot of you guys listen to the show and don't do it. I don't do it for the shows I listen to, so I get it. But in order to support what we're doing, the simplest and totally free way to do that is by hitting the subscribe button and or leaving a quick review. And it's something that I have, quite frankly, completely ignored for the first 5 years of doing the show, but I have recently learned why it's important. So when you subscribe or leave a review, the algorithms, the platforms take notice, which means they push the show out to more people. More people see the show, we can attract bigger guests, and we can level up our production. If you do that for me, my promise to you is that I will do everything in my power to make sure this show gets better every single week. We have a lot to talk about, a lot to discuss, and we need your help in getting the show out to more people. So we'll read your feedback, we'll bring on the guests you want to hear from, and we'll continue to improve the show. Thank you so much for your continued support. It really means a lot.
Thank you, Kyle, for having me.
Yeah, absolutely, man. And I'll tell you, I didn't even realize, maybe this is exposing myself on poor show prep, I didn't even realize you had your own restaurants.
Yeah, I think that's probably the key to InKind's success. I own restaurants, and we build product really from the standpoint of what's good for restaurants, restaurateurs, and happy to tell you about that. And also happy to jump into any of the restaurant stuff. I just opened one in Vegas, January 1st.
Nice.
It's already profitable. We cash flowed almost $250,000 last month.
What kind of restaurant is it?
In that unit? It's called the Guest House, and I opened a guest house here in Austin like a year and 3 months ago, and then we opened the Vegas location about 3 months ago, and it's going super well. But for me, it's all about, as a restaurateur, understanding how hard it is to run restaurants and drive top line revenue and profitability. And ultimately what we did was we reinvented sort of restaurant finance, because what we realized was that was the biggest problem. The problem was restaurants don't make that much money generally. So trying to pay investors or debt was hard. So we kind of figured out a better way to do it.
Yeah. The Guest House, you guys are in that sort of like outdoor mall space, right? Yeah.
Town Square.
Yeah. I remember we had one of our QSR concepts was looking to get in over there, and we just weren't a brand fit. I don't think the landlord wanted us next to you. It was too much conflict there. But I remember seeing the floor plan. I remember seeing the name Guest House and looking at it. Super cool concept.
We took it was a Tommy Bahama's space, and I think they moved a few stores down, and we did a big remodel. I got involved only maybe 2 years ago, and the original guys who started building it out, I think they ran out of funding, and
heard that story before.
And so we took it over and completed. I bought personally, so not InKind, but outside of InKind, I have a restaurant group called RDM, and I think we have 6 restaurants under the RDM brand.
So you're in it. You are in it. You're in it on every which way.
Yeah, last year I bought Edda out of bankruptcy.
Okay.
So there was a Scottsdale location and 2 Chicago locations. Scottsdale, as an example, we remodeled. We put about $2 million into it. It's in it's a great location in Scottsdale. They were doing maybe 450,000 in revenue, lunch and dinner a month. And I think last month we probably did 1.2 million dinner only.
Sheesh.
So our team's really, really good. Yeah,
it's a
running
great
these
market.
restaurants.
I
Great
love
market.
Oh my God. Wild. So InKind, I mean, I actually heard about it from a restaurateur in the city a while ago. I actually probably mentioned it on this show maybe like 2-3 years ago. Does that sound right? I mean, you guys have been around for a little bit, right? So
yeah.
And now I just went to a local sushi place right here in Tuckahoe, which is like Westchester County, New York, and they have InKind as well. What sparked this model? Like, how did you even come up with this idea? It's really unique.
Yeah, we wanted to build a marketplace to connect consumers and restaurants. You know, it's a big market, and we wanted, but really, if you think about those marketplaces, they don't have great restaurants. You know, like, and so what we wanted to do was figure out a way to add the best restaurants to our network. And ultimately, from owning my own restaurants, I realized that the restaurant finance was broken, and there needed to be a better way to finance restaurants so that restaurant owners made more money. And the number one reason that restaurants close when it's their own choice is because you and I, Kyle, we want to open a restaurant. We raise $5 million from friends and family and investors, and we say, okay, we're going to give you all of our profits so you get paid back, or we're going to give you 80% of the profits to get paid back, or something. And then, as you know, there's the flip where once they're paid back, then you and I start making money. And after 3, 4, 5 years, we're like, we still haven't paid our investors back, and we're working 100 hours a week at this restaurant, and it doesn't really make sense. So hopefully, we can get out of our personal guarantees on the lease, and we hand the keys back to the landlord. And in that model, like, no one's the bad guy. The investors are helping you open a restaurant, helping us open our dream, and obviously need to get paid back. Like, they're putting money into the business, and we're working really, really hard. And it's just that restaurants, generally speaking, independent restaurants don't make that much cash, and they cost a lot to open, and they're difficult to operate, and so paying back the investors is really hard. Probably, my guess is that more than 90% of restaurants don't end up paying back their investors, and there's good intentions there, but it's not a good model for the restaurateur, and it's not a good model for the investor, obviously. And so when I was running one of my restaurants, and actually the real impetus for the story was, I have a good friend who was running a restaurant in DC where I was living, and he wanted a website for a charity event that he was doing. So he told my younger brother, Rajan, he's like, hey, if you make me a website, I'll give you a $500 gift card to my restaurant. And my brother was like, amazing. So he went on Squarespace, it took him like half an hour, and he made this website. and our friend gave him a $500 gift card, and he like took his girlfriend out, and they had gin and tonics, and there was like a baller dinner. Mm-hmm. And in his mind, he's like, oh my gosh, I got paid $500 for making this website. And in my restaurant friend's mind, it was like this: I got a website, and it cost me $100 in product, $100 in gin and tonics in actual cost, and I got a website. And so we were like, so there's arbitrage between what a customer values restaurant credit or gift cards at, and what a restaurant values it at. And so we built a business out of that. So we basically buy food and beverage credit in a restaurant. So we give a restaurant money, we buy credit. The restaurant never pays us back the money. We don't take profits. We don't take swipes from their credit cards. It's not a merchant cash advance. And then we have now, I think, 2.7 million users on our app that basically go, okay, where do I want to eat today? Pull up the app. Every restaurant on the app is a good restaurant. So that's number one. We only buy credit in great restaurants. So we have more than 50% of restaurants that want us to buy credit, we don't buy from. So we're pretty strict on our underwriting to make sure that it's good, because that's the most important thing, that as a consumer, when you open up the app and you're looking for Indian food or sushi, the place that's on the app that you go to is good, right? So that's important. And then you go in, and you if your bill's $100, you pull out the InKind app, you pay through the app, super easy, and you get 20% back that you can use anywhere on the network. So, you're in New York, and you go to Zetinia at the Ritz-Carlton Nomad, and you pay with InKind. José Andrés' restaurant, I love it. Amazing pita bread. Great. And then, and the lamb shoulder, so good.
Yeah, I can't remember what I had there, but everything was phenomenal.
Really good. Yeah, and then so your bills, there might be $1,000. You're taking friends out, you get $200 back, you can use that $200 at, Maman coffee shop. You can use it at Medusa, if you want a big night out, right? Like, so there's so many places. Then in Manhattan, I think we have close to 600 restaurants.
Nice. Wow.
That you can use that credit. So customers really like it. A lot of bankers, real estate folks, they take clients out, they expense the meal, and they get the 20% back, take their family out with that, kind of
making
like
money on that deal. Yeah, right.
Yeah. So that's sort of that's in a nutshell what InKind is. And it's grown a lot. When we started it, I think we did our first purchase of credit in 2015. And we were buying credit in places that we didn't know how to sell the credit. Thankfully it was sort of my own money because we lost so much money. We'd buy about $100,000 in donuts someplace in Michigan, and then that place closed, and I couldn't sell the credit. Obviously.
Man, wow.
But over time we've just really, really refined it. And now this year, I think we'll probably end up buying close to 600 to 700 million in credit just this year in restaurants.
600 to 700 million.
Yeah. So it's gotten pretty big.
So okay, so yeah. So how? Okay, just so I understand, and maybe everyone else is thinking like me. If I'm a restaurant, how is the amount of credit that you purchase determined, or am I asking for a funding amount like I would to any other lender?
We determine how much funding we're going to give you based on two factors. So the first thing we do is we look at our user base and we say, how much demand is there for this restaurant? So we know specifically what our consumers, our guests are buying, like SKU level data, because we've integrated with all the point of sales. So I know how many people are buying high-end white burgundy in a zip code, and then we apply that sort of, we actually have AI. He's called Sherlock. He's our AI that does our underwriting. And so he looks at the demand for a particular restaurant. So he looks at what the restaurant sells, and he looks at the reviews of the restaurant. He looks at all these things. He attaches a hospitality score to it, and then really attaches a dollar amount. So we go, okay, we think that we can sell $10,000 a month in credit to this restaurant. Then it becomes, how many months of risk are we willing to take? So if it's an independent restaurant, they don't own their building, they're maybe not, they're a little bit more risky, obviously, than like a José Andrés, which is a massive group. So we'll buy more credit in José Andrés. We might buy 36 months or 30 months of inventory in a José Andrés restaurant. And in an independent restaurant, we might buy 12 to 18 months of inventory. So that's how we decide how to size it, credit purchase amount. And then we obviously work with the restaurant. So like we love to fund things that generate more revenue for restaurants, or go to a new location, a better wine list, patio, whatever else. So our algorithm might come back and say, okay, we think the restaurant should get $100,000. And what we usually do is we do an initial sort of low risk proposition for us and for the restaurant. So we'll be like, okay, we think you qualify for about 100,000, but you want to start with a smaller amount. You want to start with 10K or 20K, so you can get a feeling for how InKind works. And that way, as an operator, you don't get locked into this long-term kind of thing. And
smart.
So if you don't like it, that's not a problem. And then 98% of people say, okay, once we've done this initial funding, they're on the platform for a month or two. They're like, okay, I like this. You qualified me for 100. That's great. I'll take 100. Or hey, like we really need 200 because we're opening this patio and it's gone over the bills, and so we need 200. And we're super flexible with folks. Like ultimately, what I tell people is, like, I'm a restaurateur myself. Like my restaurants were all over budget when I opened them. They were all losing money when I opened them. And they're very stressful. And some months you can't pay your rent on time, and sometimes you can't pay your sales tax on time. And we understand that. We are your finance partner, and we're your partner. So we're happy to help. We're super, super flexible. For me, the number one thing is do right by our restaurant partners, and if we do that over the long term, we end up building a big business.
Yeah, that's awesome. I mean, because sometimes the answer is to not give them all the money that they're asking for, right? Like maybe they don't know what they're looking at. It's helpful to have somebody who knows what they're talking about when it comes to lending money, and obviously the operational side. Right, so you understand both sides. Maybe you can look at it and say, "Hey, I think you guys are looking at this wrong. Maybe you only need 50,000, not 100,000." Right?
Yeah, absolutely. And just to be super clear, we're not lending. It's not a loan. You don't got to pay us back. So that's awesome for any lawyers on the call. But
let's clarify. Yeah, exactly. Let's clarify that. So you give me $100,000 and I give you how much back in credit?
So we always buy. So we would buy $200,000 in food credit for $100,000 in cash, and then we would sell that $200,000 over time to customers coming in. Mm-hmm. And if your food costs at a restaurant are 30%, then essentially you're paying $60,000 in food, right, over 2 or 3 years, and you got $100,000 upfront from us. You don't pay us back, so you actually made $40,000 on the transaction. If you include interest, if a bank gave you $100,000 or an investor gives you $100,000, they want their money back. Plus, over 3 years, instead of, if you're borrowing from a bank, you're gonna have to pay them back the $100,000 plus $30,000 in interest, right?
Right.
In our case, that's $130,000. In our case, you're getting the $100,000. It's costing a total of $60,000 over 3 years, so it's a lot cheaper. That's why we've become kind of so big, is that restaurants are like, wow, this is a no-brainer. Why wouldn't I do this? You have 3 million customers you're sending in. You're not cannibalizing my revenue. So if I were to just take $200,000 of revenue that you were going to get anyway, right? Like if I were a merchant cash advance or a reward network, somebody like that, then I'm actually really expensive, because that's $200,000 that should have been in your pocket and is now coming to my pocket. Right. So it's really, really important for us that we're driving in new customers. We're driving in people who start in the InKind app. They open up the InKind app and they go, where do I want to eat dinner? Where do I want to have lunch? And then they go to the restaurant. And the key to that is you have to have a high quality network. So you have to trust the network. Otherwise, you won't open the app to figure out where to go.
Right.
So that's why we only finance high quality. Could be the high quality bagels, Blackstreet Bagel in Manhattan. Right. Amazing bagel shop. Right. It doesn't have to be expensive sit down restaurants. We have those, but it just could be great coffee. But just quality. Exactly.
So when I go into the app, there's going to be basically an incentive for me to order from my place, the sushi place. It's going to say, hey, you can save $20 on this order or something like that. How exactly does it work on the user side?
There could be an incentive. If we're trying to promote a restaurant, you might have that. It might say get $50 off a $150 meal, right? Or get $10 off a $30 meal or something like that. And then, so we sometimes run those promotions, but always, if you go into the restaurant and you pay with the InKind app, you get 20% back in credit that you can use on the network. So if you don't have a special promotion and you're just using the app and you are hungry and you want to figure out where to eat, open up the app, you're like, okay, I want to go get sushi. You go get sushi, your bill's $100, you get $20 back. And you can use that towards your next purchase at any restaurant on the network.
Yeah. Okay. So that makes sense. I have gotten, a bunch of alerts like that. And I think the app does a great job of curating, because when I open it up, I'm like, wow, these are all really great restaurants. So not even understanding what you're saying, just learning what you said now, but now I'm looking at it wow, this is really sort of it's already done for you, right? You want the best pizza in the area, you want the best food in the area. It's a great place to look in that regard too. So it's kind of serving another function as well, in my opinion, now that I understand what you're doing there.
Yeah, exactly. So from the consumer standpoint, consumers love our app because they're saving money eating at the best restaurants. Because again, that's how we underwrite. It has to be high quality. And then from the restaurant's perspective, every restaurant needs capital to grow. You need money to open a new unit, or you need money to buy more wine or whatever. Right. We fund that in the lowest cost capital possible. And so I think going back a little bit to something you said earlier, which I didn't hit on enough, I think.
Are you a growing franchise caught in the real estate trap? You need experienced real estate leadership to grow, but you're facing an impossible choice. You either have to hire a full-time director of real estate at $200,000 a year, or risk your brand's future with generic commercial brokers who don't understand the restaurant business, nor do they understand franchising. The cost of getting it wrong is staggering. Check this out. 72% of emerging brands cite real estate delays as their number one challenge, with each delayed opening burning through about $48,000 in lost revenue every single month. Poor locations don't just hurt the profits, they can permanently damage your franchise's reputation. That's where 10rep comes in. We've created a revolutionary solution that gives you senior level real estate expertise at a fraction of the cost for a full-time hire. Our flexible month-to-month model combines deep operational experience, cutting-edge AI, and nationwide network of franchise specialized brokers, all without the burden of salaries, benefits, travel, office expenses, or even long-term contracts. Join successful brands who trust 10rep to turn real estate from a growth challenge into a strategic advantage. Whether you need full service management or project-based support, we scale with you. Don't let real estate hold your franchise back. Visit www.10rep.co to learn how 10rep can help you scale smarter.
Like, we see so many restaurants, like I'm last year we funded over 2,500 restaurants. This year we'll fund probably close to 7,000 is my guess, restaurants.
Yeah.
Right. And so we just see so many. So I'm seeing leases, I'm seeing what's selling, like I'm seeing what people are paying general managers in their location. Part of what we do is, we're really good at giving money to restaurants and making sure that they're successful. Our restaurants don't close. Last year, less than half of 1% of our restaurants that we funded closed, right? So, which is crazy for the industry, which is amazing. But we also try to be really helpful. So if a restaurant's like, hey, I'm thinking about adding, new cocktail program, right? Like, we can be like, okay, well, this is what I do at my restaurant, and look how successful that is. Here are the numbers. But copy it if you want. I don't care, and then, or, well, in this neighborhood, vodka sells better than bourbon, and so we can give you that kind of data. And then I think there's more broad data, like advice that we provide too. And nobody has to take our advice, like it's your business. You run it the way you want to run it. I can just tell you kind of what I've seen in the market.
Yeah, right.
As an example, one of the things that sometimes restaurateurs use, real estate agents that aren't specific to restaurants.
Heard all about that.
You've heard about that. And so I can tell them, like, listen, in my experience, I only use restaurant, advisors who are like for retail, for real estate, that are specifically doing restaurants.
Yeah.
Because it's very different if you're doing commercial office. I mean, it's like super different if you're doing residential, right? And so like that type of advice, I've learned my lessons. I've scraped my knees, right, enough times where I can, and I'm happy to tell people about the mistakes I've made to hope that they don't make those same mistakes, right? And I think that's for us is that's our goal. Our goal is don't have our restaurants close, have restaurant owners make money, let them pay for their kids' college, and take all the learnings that we have over years of making mistakes and have them not make those same mistakes.
Exactly. That's kind of the reason why this show even exists and why I actually made the shift to the real estate side. Because, I always use the cheesy analogy of like, if your knee's jacked up, I'm not going to go to a general practitioner. I want to go see a guy that's done 9,000 knee surgeries. Every day he's looking at knees. He knows knees. You ask him something about a knee, he knows it. Whereas, and it's not necessarily a knock, but a residential agent or somebody specialized in office, right? They have to shift what they're looking at every day. And it's not easy to do. Like if you ask me to look for office space, I don't know, I'll go on CoStar, see if I can find you office space, but I wouldn't know anything beyond that. I wouldn't be the best to serve you. So I appreciate you bringing that up. In terms of, VC money in restaurants, would you consider are you guys like VC kind of company? Would you consider yourselves that?
Not really. I think that like,
Fintech.
There was a time. Yeah. I think like technically our term is commerce enablement, is that we help restaurants be more successful, and we do that through funding. We do that through marketing. We do that through, other ways that we help them.
Yeah.
And that's what we do. VCs, I think, the classic stories are like Sweetgreen and Kava that raise venture capital money, and those have done extremely well. I think most of the other stories didn't end as well. It's because restaurants are not like tech. You have to open more units. You have to hire more people,
Yep.
They're very capital intensive. They're hard to scale, very hard to scale.
Yep.
And so we look at ourselves, we actually never really raised venture capital money ourselves, because my approach was, and I got really, really lucky myself. I had sold my tech company, and then I got really lucky with some early investments that, in companies like Uber and Twilio and places that kind of let me have enough of a, account to do this business. And so for the first 7-8 years, it was sort of my own money, and we built it that way. But it gave me, one, it was great because I lost so much money in not knowing what I was doing, and I wasn't losing someone else's money, which made me happy. But it also gave me the flexibility to run the business the way that I wanted to run it.
Yeah.
And I think that's important about the way that we fund restaurants, is we recognize that as an investor or a financer, we're not smarter, we're not better than the operator, like full stop. The operator is the one who's there all day long, seeing their customer base, understanding what people want. We're just people can write a check, which is what we do. And I think a lot of times investors, this is why people typically like don't love having investors in their restaurant, because they're like a banker or a lawyer or a doctor, and they're like, oh, why don't you put this on the menu, or why don't you change this? And
my
like,
wife's coming with her friends on Thursday night. Yeah, right. Yeah, I'm very familiar with that dynamic too.
Yeah, exactly. And so we were like, no, listen, we want to do ultimately what's best for the restaurant, which is give them capital, give them advice that they, based on data and all the other thousands of restaurants that we're working with, and then let them make their own decisions. Like, we don't have any controls or covenants, or we don't put any of that in there. Like, it's up to, we believe that the person running the restaurant is the best at making the decisions for the restaurant. So Kyle, I think I might have lost your audio.
I'm muted because something is ringing on here and I don't know what the hell it is. Sorry about that. Oh, no, there we go. It stopped. Even better. Oh, and it started again. Sorry about that. All right. I don't know. Is that me or you? I don't know what happened. I think that was definitely me. I mean, that's the classic story, right? I mean, I know that there are restaurants around here that have received VC money or even just investments, private equity investments. And, as an operator, the concern is, oh, I don't want that money because they're going to come here and change everything. They're going to look at the P&L and say, why are you spending so much on this? Cut it. You don't need it. Meanwhile, it could be something that's very endearing to the customers, and there's a reason why it costs that much. I definitely agree that that's something that these guys are concerned about when taking that money, particularly restaurant folks with a lot of ego who have created a concept, and now they don't want somebody coming in, and now it's like they have a job again, right? Like now they got a whole bunch of money, got rid of that stress, but now you have the stress of this guy who wants you to change these things, or like I said, his family's coming in and expect some kind of comp. So I think from the perspective of that, at least, the InKind makes a lot more sense in my opinion. I'd much rather have the deal with you than with somebody who's breathing over my shoulder.
Yeah, and there are some great private equity investors in restaurants, for sure, and that are really helpful and that help entrepreneurs really scale their businesses and grow. There definitely are a lot of them out there. For
sure.
But you're right. Oftentimes, an investor manages a business, a restaurant, from a P&L, from a spreadsheet, and you can't do that. There is so much. A good example. There's a Red Lobster. So Red Lobster was bought by a private equity firm years ago, and the PE firm said, you know what? We can save money on our cheesy bread, right? We can take the amount of cheese that we use in there and cut it in half. And really, they did some testing, and they were like, it tastes pretty much the same, right? And we'll save millions of dollars on cheese. And then 6 months later, they're like, you know what? We could cut the cheese again, and it pretty much tastes the same. And what ended up happening is folks stopped coming in for the cheesy bread, which was the massive driver of going to Red Lobster. Their delicious cheesy bread, right? And that's what happens when you manage the business purely with a spreadsheet, right?
Yeah.
Totally, you need to understand your P&L. You need to be profitable, right? Their food costs have to be in check, etc. But that's the biggest problem with sort of a private equity or an investor that is just managing based on a spreadsheet. Is there are certain things you do in the restaurant business that might have higher cost, but they drive in customers, right? We my restaurant here in Austin, amazing cocktail program at the guest house here, and we make espresso martinis, and we actually bake fresh croissants, and then we add vodka and Alexin to the and basically infuse the vodka with croissants, and then they strain it out, and they make it amazing espresso martini. And when they told me about this, I was like, are you crazy? The labor cost, to make these things, there's no way. This is a horrible idea. And thankfully, they didn't listen to me, because that's our number one item sold in the restaurant. People write about it. People, photograph it, put it on Instagram, because it's amazing, right? And if they had listened to me, looking at literally just the cost to produce this and the labor, they wouldn't have done it. But that was that they made the right decision to ignore me and be like, give us a chance, trust us, and they were absolutely right.
The restaurant probably smells amazing too.
It does.
So there's that too, right? That God, just think of this. So it has like a almost like a breakfasty vibe, then, right? It's like a toast and kind of coffee deal. Is that what the idea is?
Yeah, exactly. Absolutely. I kind of joke like, I want to change the world for the worst, I want to like bottle these and have everybody in the morning like having their espresso martini with croissant infused. We'll all be drunk all day long.
Yeah. There are 3 or 4 of those in the morning. Be a different day at work for sure. So now you just touched on a great success story. Are there is there a great story that you could tell about one brand? Like, hey, we gave them this money, brought them on board. They were hesitant. They were, tough times, but when this happened, we infused some capital, we became partners, and things kind of blew up from there. Or what's one of your greatest success stories you could touch on?
For me, we work with a lot of great groups. There's one of the best restaurant groups in the country, I think, is called Noble 33. They own Medusa in New York. They own Sparrow and Casa Madera in Miami. They own Toca Madera in LA and Scottsdale and Vegas. And they're an incredibly run group. They do great top line revenue and they're very profitable. And I would say, for them, InKind is one of their biggest finance partners because they make so much money that their equity investors are very, very expensive to them. Right? Yeah, right. They've returned in their Scottsdale location. They opened the year of the pandemic, and they've already given their investors a 3x return on their capital. Right? And that's awesome, and they're very proud of that, and they're a really well-run group. But it also means that the operators who are really working there should be making more money than they're making. Right? Yeah. Because they're paying it back to their investors and so much. And so I think that's an example of a big group that doesn't need our money. They're going to do great with or without us. But their CFO has done the math, and he's like, why would I go with anybody else funding me? This is much, much better for us as operators and owners of this business. Yeah. I think on the other side, there's like examples of independent restaurants that probably we do help tremendously in terms of finding a lease, getting funding, understanding like how to make operational decisions. Those restaurants actually, like, if you probably looked at, are we making money on them? Probably not, because of the amount of time and work that we put in. But if you ask me like what's the most fulfilling to like my soul, that's those restaurants. It's going to a restaurant where there was a restaurant in DC, mother-daughter team. Mom was from Burma and a refugee, and we funded it. Nobody else wanted to fund it. Food was absolutely phenomenal. Andy and I Andy's my husband, we went and had dinner with them, and the mom came out of the kitchen and explained every dish and how it related to her growing up in Burma. And, that was so just cool. such a cool, powerful experience. Yeah. Right. And so I would say those types of experiences are my favorite. It's probably why we continue to do this. The business is so big now, and technically it's more work now, which should be the opposite. You think when something gets bigger, it's less work. About it, that's what's going on here. Yeah. But I wake up every day and I'm just like super excited. Like that's why I wanted to come on this podcast, is because I really want like people to know running restaurants are so hard, and ultimately people work so many hours and they don't put enough money in their pocket. And that's not sustainable. So we need to have financial sustainability in restaurants, because when a restaurant closes, it's not just the husband and wife team that have mortgaged their house and maxed out their credit cards and borrowed from their 401ks. In my Vegas location, I have 170 employees, right? That means there's 170 families that aren't getting fed if that restaurant closes, right? And there's a whole community that is, comes and gathers in our restaurants and eats and is happy. And like that all goes away when our restaurants close. And so it's all about making these restaurants sustainable, not close. And it's so important, in life. So much happiness comes from gathering with friends and eating at restaurants and having a good time. Right. And we're helping to enable that.
No. Yeah, absolutely. It's something that we used to say about on this show as one of our taglines, where we wanted to help to decrease or increase the success rate of restaurants in this country, right? Because there's a lot of things you could say, but I feel like whatever we can do by sharing my experience and experience of folks like you and guests on the show, like, hey, look, this is what I did. It sucked. Don't do it. Or hey, here's what I did. Do it. Like you said, take it, run with it. It's all yours, because it's a very lonely business, right? Like when you're in there, especially the independent side, is like there's nobody. You can't run down the hall and say, hey, Steve, I ran into this problem. You ever experienced anything like this before? It's just, now there's the internet and stuff, but even that's not always 100% reliable. But Yeah, I agree with that. Now, I have just a couple more minutes here, so I want to run you through some quick fire stuff. These would be great questions to have over an espresso martini, but I'm just going to hit you with some. These are pretty basic, kind of fun stuff that we came up with. So quick fire, just 1 or 2 words, short answer, and whatever comes to you in the moment would be fantastic. So best meal you've had this year? No,
This
don't lose
is
a client now.
cheating because my mom is the reason I got into food. Yesterday she was in Austin and she cooked me lunch and brought it to the office, so it was amazing.
That's awesome.
That's
That's a
cheating,
great
though.
answer. Shout out to Mom, the Mother's Day episode. Okay, most overrated restaurant concept or trend?
I would say fried chicken. I think that
Jumping the shark, huh? We're in that moment. I know.
Yeah. But
Yeah.
I was in Nashville this weekend and I ate at what's it called?
Hattie B's.
I ate at Hattie B's, but the big chain.
Dave's Hot Chicken.
No, come on.
Raising Cane's.
Just do Raising Cane's and Raising Cane's.
We're going to get there eventually. I knew we were going to get there.
I actually think I ate like 5 fried chickens in the same day because I was like trying everything. And Raising Cane's is such a brilliant concept. That guy is so smart. So smart.
Their Times Square location, I heard, does something like $15,000 an hour.
I believe it. I believe it.
It's a lot of chicken. Now, you do own your own restaurants, but if you can open up something totally new today, I mean, maybe you just kind of leaned into it a bit, or maybe it's something you're going to avoid. But what kind of concept would you choose?
I think we do a great job with like high energy vibe dining, which I think in today's market, people don't want to go to nightclubs anymore because they're so big and DJs get paid so much. So you have to have these big venues.
Yeah.
People much prefer to go nowadays to supper clubs and have a great experience. And they're willing to pay a premium for that experience. So we do that. That's my restaurant group. We open those types of places. And in a recessionary environment, those places seem to be pretty resilient.
Mm-hmm.
Our same store sales were up 37% last month.
Sheesh. Wow.
So,
those are QSR numbers. Like,
yeah. But if I want to make money, I'd open a QSR. I'd open like 100 QSRs. That's like the real. I think I love eating at my restaurants. I eat at them as often as I can. I ate last night. I'll eat tonight. When I'm in Austin. But if you're really trying to make money, I think you scale with a bunch of QSRs. That's how you make money.
Then you sell to private equity or venture capital, whatever you're gonna do,
or awesome. Cash flow them. I mean.
Yeah, screw that, right?
We don't Panda Express, like Andrew Churn.
Yeah,
he's
the CEO of Panda Express tours sites in New York City himself. He'll go and see the sites. I'm sure he does every market, but I know here in New York, he'll come and he'll take a broom out. If he sees the sidewalk is dirty, he'll be out there doing. I mean, that's next level right there.
I went to lunch with him about 2 months ago, and we walked into one of his restaurants, and there was literally a tiny bit of trash before the door, and I'm guessing he's in his 70s, and he's obviously done extremely well. And he literally is bending down and cleaning the floor as we're walking into the restaurant. And I mean, he is just so inspirational and so remarkable as a person.
Wow.
And his wife, I know we're going off topic, but his wife has a PhD in computer science. Peggy, is probably the reason that they were able to scale because she was building systems and software when nobody else was, great team.
Back when everybody had those old micro systems, she was building the next level, who knows what. That's amazing. So if restaurants want to get a hold of you, what's the best way to sort of start that application process or get in touch with?
I think go to inkindcapital.com, or you can go to inkind.com, and I'm sure there's a link from there. Mm-hmm. Apply on the website, and somebody will reach back out to you. I'd also encourage any restaurant, restaurateur, download the app, look who's in there, and just go to one of those restaurant owners, and ask them, how's your experience with InKind? And that's a really good way to come in. Like, we love referrals. For us, there's some trust there. Or like a lot of our restaurants come through the real estate agents that we have, like that are like, hey, Johann, I'm working with this client. You're gonna love their food. etc. So we the best thing for us is referrals. That's how we do most of our funding, is coming through somebody that we trust, and they can vouch for the restaurant. Mm-hmm. But definitely, if you don't know anyone in the network, just go to our website and apply.
That's awesome. Yeah, and for restaurant operators or as a consumer, that was going to be my suggestion. Download the app, get on there, see what's on there, play around with it, and Yeah, I think that's the best way to get your education from the consumer side, and then obviously reach out to the team over there if you guys have interest on the operator side. Johann, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate you sharing all your insights, and I'm really looking forward to following you guys and see where this goes. So I'm sure you're up to some big things in the next couple of years, and I'm excited to see it.
Thanks, Kyle. Really appreciate you.
All right. Yeah, we'll be looking forward to staying in touch too. I'm going to reach out to you about that real estate stuff, just a heads up.
I'd love it. And thanks for doing this podcast and helping restaurants. Like, I think it's so important. Really appreciate it.
No, thank you. Thank you. All right, Johann, thank you so much, and we'll be in touch.
Okay, take care.